All right. Good evening, good morning, everyone, for joining in. And hey, hello, and welcome to another episode of Karthik Builds, where I build stuff mostly on Alexa and different things and learn as it goes, right? So today is 13th May 2020, and we are on this screen building an Alexa skill that tests you on your knowledge of Alexa games, on your knowledge of movie dialogues. Sorry, right? So it tests you on your knowledge of movie dialogues. We've been doing pretty much a lot of these things for the past 1 or 2 weeks, and the skill is still getting shaped out. It's not yet uh, finalized how the skill is going to be, how the final experience is going to look like. But yes, that's the skill that we are going to build. And I had a couple of call outs that I wanted to make. And we'll be doing this a bit more of this since the last time we've had a couple of people follow us. There was Monish who followed us, and Dana music listener. I'm not sure if we are getting that alert. Repeat alert. Yeah, there we go. So Dana music listener. Dana and Monish, welcome to the stream. Feel free to say hi if you are around in the chat. Uh, so yes, and I had a quick. Uh, it's not funny. Okay. I had a quick request to make of you folks who are joining in the stream. Uh, oh well, I think I just hit the reload button one too many times, and that's why you're seeing that again and again. Let's see if there's a way to pause those alerts. But yeah, looks like it's paused now. But yes, hey, I have whatever videos that we are recording under this entire idea. I'm kind of putting all of them together on my YouTube channel. And yeah, there we go. Here's my YouTube channel. So if you folks want to come back and watch these videos, or kind of just sign up for some more tech videos, I plan to make some of these on my YouTube channel as well. And the reason why I'm doing it on YouTube is simple, is because I don't have a premium subscription on Twitch, and sometimes things these videos just expire. So a helpful soul pointed out that, and they told me that maybe I should put it up on YouTube. So I've just put it up on YouTube. I've shared my YouTube link. Feel free to hit the subscribe button on that, and see if you can get me to the 100 subscriber link, because at that point we kind of get we get a custom URL. So that's what I want to aim for. So yes, that's something that we are aiming for, 100 subscribers. So do hit the subscribe button on this. Now the next thing that I wanted to talk about today, hey startup Sanatana, welcome to the stream, is that if integration video available. That was the last stream, and I didn't do much about except for just connecting both of them. But yes, that video I think will take a couple of days to come up online. But yes, I am working on that. Welcome to the stream, Crazy Bone, and hi. I hope all of you are safe. So I just wanted to take a couple of minutes and teach you folks this. Okay, this is something that I learned when I was building skills, or building apps for clients, and I'm pretty sure when you're trying to do all of these things, you might run into this issue of, you might be using AWS services, right? And sometimes, maybe due to a misconfiguration, poorly configured rule, due to a lot of reasons, it might be the case that you could get a huge bill on your AWS account. And I don't want that to happen to you folks, right? Now, this is something I tried with one of my clients, and this happened to one of my clients as well, who configured S3 bucket in a wrong way, I think, and they got a AWS bill for like 30,000, 40,000. Now, normally, if you kind of make the case to AWS, they kind of they kind of help you out, but nobody wants to receive a $40,000 AWS bill, right? So if you are trying any of these things that I'm teaching you and you are using AWS Lambda, the very first thing to do is you should set up a billing alarm. Okay, and I'll just quickly show you how to set up a billing alarm. Just keep this set up so that you are not in for a surprise later on. Okay, so let's see how to do that. So the thing to do first is you need to go into your AWS account, and once you go inside your AWS account, go to CloudWatch, and CloudWatch should be here under management and governance, CloudWatch, right? And I would like to ask you folks, have you ever come across an instance where you kind of had to spend by mistake a lot of money on AWS? Let me know. And what's the highest you have spent? Like, what's the highest you have spent? Your bill size. I've worked with clients who have had $1,000 or $2,000 bills, or even $10,000, but those have been normal. But yeah, let me know. So yes, so let's get back to this. Let's create an alarm for billing. So when you click on, once you click on CloudWatch, let's go to the billing option here. And once you go to billing, you'll see this option here for create alarm, right? So click on that create alarm, and what create alarm is going to do here, and basically, wait a minute, I think I kind of made a small mistake here. Right, I think, okay, so because I already have an alarm, maybe create a composite alarm. Okay, no, not the composite alarm, sorry. Let me just delete this alarm so that I can show you from the start. So yeah, so once you click on the billing option, right, Amazon CloudWatch can help you monitor the charges on your AWS bill by sending you email alerts when charges exceed a threshold you define. So that's for something that you have to click on billing, right? And you get 10 free alarms and 1,000 free email notifications each month as a part of the AWS free tier. So do keep that in mind, and then click on create alarm. Now once you click on create alarm, once you click on the alarm, you can specify the metrics and conditions here, and the metric here right now is estimated charges, and the USD in the currency is USD. The statistics is maximum. What you can do here is kind of choose the period that you want to be alerted on, or this to be checked. So this is 6 hours, maybe 6 hours is fine. And then you can just click a threshold type and static, and whenever estimated charges is greater than 10 USD, right? Maybe this is something that you can change. You can keep it to 100 USD or 2000 USD, whatever your numbers are going to be, right? And this is based on month basis, right? So that's how this all works. Now the alarm state trigger would be an alarm, and then you need to select a SNS topic, right? And by default, we are not going to have an SNS topic created, so you can kind of go ahead and create a new topic. But basically what SNS does is that it sends you a notification. It's a notification service by AWS, right? So you just need to use the create new topic option, right? And then finally out here, there's an email endpoints that will receive the notification. Just put in your email ID, right? So I'm just going to put in, say, some random email ID, xyz.abc.com, right? But you will have to put in your email ID. Let's read the comments a bit. Crazy Bone says nothing like that for me. I only get $10 bills currently, which is mostly light sale. Yeah, I think light sale is pretty cool. And when you are working with limited resources like that, I think it's pretty decided that because you're going to be just working with one resource, it's going to be pretty much more or less the same. But when you kind of work with multiple resources, like say for example, you have a CDN, and then you have S3 buckets, and then you have set up a VPC, and then you have kind of a couple of EC2 servers, and then you have load scaling installed, load scaling setup done, and a lot of these things, right? There are chances that things might go out of hand, and when they do, just creating a billing alarm helps. So once you put in the email ID, just click on create topic, and I'm not sure who this person is, but they are going to get an email now. And I should not have done that, but yeah, I think I will delete that as soon as possible. But this is what I was just showing you. And then once you have added this, just click on next option here, give an alarm name, just say something like billing alarm, right? And then say emails me when cost is greater than $10, something like that. Just click on next, and then once you click on this, you are going to be good. And this is a preview option, and then just click on create alarm. Right now, once you do that, it would say pending confirmation, and the pending confirmation looks something like this, right? It looks somewhat like this. It's an email. You should click on this, and then once you click on it, you get a notification saying that, hey, this has been subscribed. And then once you do that, this action here goes away, and this is what you will have. And right now we are getting an insufficient data, and the reason that is because we've set this to run for 6 hours. So right now there's not enough data for it to run, but sooner or later it's going to go inside the OK tab, right? So right now it's insufficient, but sooner or later it's going to go inside OK, right? So yeah, anyways, so just make sure whenever you're building, working with any of these AWS resources, it doesn't hurt to create a billing alarm. It's a very simple thing. Just set that up so that when you are working with AWS, you just don't receive a nasty surprise in your email in terms of a huge bill. So yeah, let me just delete this. This is a test account I'm using anyways, so I'm not too bothered about this. But yes, at some point I will kind of set up a proper alarm in here. And yeah, Oxygen Box says, I think the most I was charged was under $20, but the developer credits seem to cover me. But also I don't get as much traffic as I would like either. I know, and irrespective of whether you are, I feel that irrespective of whether you are getting a traffic or not, I think because it's just so easy to set up, I would suggest all of us, when you're kind of working on it, just to set it up, right? Because you just never know what's going to go wrong. Maybe, someone's trying to DDoS your skill, or, these kind of things happen. So always kind of creating an alarm is just a better way to be protected. So I believe that's a good way to get started, right? Anyways, so let's come back to our skill. We left our skill the last time at this point, where we kind of were trying to get the opponent's games count, and then get their game. But one of my colleague, a helpful colleague, TC, and I'm not sure if TC is in the stream, but hey TC, if you're around, TC, help me out with this really good script, not a script but a method with DDB, with DynamoDB, and let's quickly look at that, right? Where did that tweet go? Yeah, there we go, right? So TC told me that the DDB method has a converter which changes the data type descriptors to regular JSON. And now what that basically means is, as per my understanding, is that when you kind of remember our JSON that we were getting back from the DynamoDB, that used to have like a really weird type of data structure, and it used to look something like this, right? So look at this. It would have this M and this 1 and this S. This M and S in here, basically with the data descriptors. And what it looks like is that this method converts that to the regular JSON. So let's just quickly look at how that works. So it looks like what it does is it helps you converts a JavaScript object into a DynamoDB record, but at the same time, I think it also, not sure, it converts a DynamoDB record into a JavaScript object. And this is part of the JavaScript SDK. So let's see how we could use this. Convert a record received from a DynamoDB stream. I think this is what we need to do. Let's see if we can use this. So do we just pass on the data? Let's see. I mean, doesn't unmarshalled is equal to aws dot dynamodb dot converter. Okay, so we are getting those unmarshalled. Okay, sounds good. Unmarshalled, and do we just pass on data in here? And then let's do unmarshalled. Not sure if this is going to help, but yeah, it doesn't hurt to try. By the way, how is the stream performance looking to you folks? Is the stream working fine? I've been just figuring out a couple of settings. So let's go to developer.amazon.com. Let's go inside our skill. And test it out. Open the dialog quiz. We are going to get an error because we are still testing it out. We don't have a response coming back, but we are looking for the log in here and see what's actually happening. Okay, sounds good. Thanks for verifying startup. It says aws.dynamodb.converter.unmarshalled is not a function. Which is weird. This is what we want to do, right? And I think there was a Stack Overflow question as well let me just try and pull that up. I've just saved it somewhere else. it looks like I need to look for that link. I think I had that link somewhere. So what is the recommended, let me just way to remove data type descriptors, because we are going to need this at some point, so better to just do that right now. Should be .marshall, I think. Yeah, there we go. I think it's this one. Yeah, it's this one. Crazy Bone says should be Marshall, but if you actually look at this Crazy Bone unmarshalled, so this is Marshall, and what Marshall does is it converts a JavaScript object into a DynamoDB record, which I believe is what you would use to write it into the database, right? And I believe to convert a DynamoDB record, oh, you know what? Yeah, I think this should be unmarshalled and not unmarshalled. Yeah. Hey, nice catch there, Crazy Bone. It's like, and that's why I like coding on live streams, because I have people who can debug that for me as well. Hey Deepanshu, welcome to the stream. Rajat says there's no option for 480p. My network is slow. Hey, that I'm not sure of. I kind of used to think that Twitch used to have this. I'm not sure. Let's just quickly see that. There is a quality option. Oh, okay, but it just has 720p. I know. I'm sorry, Rajat, but what you could do is maybe you could just hang out so that's where I kind of was just talking a bit about my YouTube channel. So I'm making a YouTube channel, and my goal for the YouTube channel is to hit 100 subscribers. So if you can just hit a subscribe. Oh, hey, we've got 2 more subscribers, but yeah, we are 80 subscribers away. So help me reach 100, and here's the link. I will be uploading all of this as a YouTube video later on, so you can always figure that out. Right, so yeah, now that we know that, let's deploy this and let's see what happens to that. CloudWatch. Exit. Open the dialog quiz. We know that we are going to get this error for a while, so I think that's perfectly fine. And I'm not listening to anything, but I still have the headphones on. I think that's out of habit. Yes. Hey, that works like magic. I think it did solve that issue, or did it? I'm not sure what happened though. It looks like, okay, so wait a minute, what happened? Here's the data, and just after here's the data, it says items are undefined, the count are undefined. Oh, you know what, folks, I think we passed the wrong JSON to it. I think we needed to pass data of items, because items is the JSON. Yeah, exactly. Good catch there, Oxygen Box. So I think, yeah. So the thing is, the data has 3 properties. One is items, one is count, and one is scanned count. And we don't need scanned count and count for this. We just need to unmarshal data of items, right? So that's what we passed here. Let's try this out now. Like I said, folks, all of this learning happens on the stream, and I'm really glad that all of you are joining me on the stream, and I get to learn all of this on live, and we all get to learn together. Open the dialog quiz. Let's come back here. Let's open up the log. Let's see what's going to happen now. Oh well. That's weird. Because even now, okay, so what am I doing wrong here? Okay, I think it looks like we need to pass it in this format. Okay, okay, let's try this one thing. Let's just go back to how our code was earlier. But before we do that, let's do console.log json.stringify of data, right? And once we do that, let's do a console.log unmarshalled data. And once we do that, my idea is just to see what do we need to pass into this method. So this method does look useful, but I think we are using it at the wrong place. So let's just figure out where we need to use this. Let's come back, open this up, exit, open the dialog quiz. So it looks like we need to pass in. So this is the format that the convert unmarshall method expects. So basically it expects that you get it a JSON object, and that JSON object should look like this, right? It should look like this. So I think we need to do items of 0 and 1 and then see what happens with that. Let's see if that works. So I'm going to say data of items of 0 and let's see if that works. Startup Sanatana asks, is there a way to know all the objects and their properties and method functions pictorially? Pictorially, I'm not sure. But one thing that you could do is, I mean, you could always do console.log and just do a json.stringify to know how the entire object looks like. The closest that you can check how this looks like is by going to DynamoDB. And then once you go to DynamoDB, go to tables, click on this, click on the items, click on edit option, and this is one way to look at the entire map pictorially. So maybe this could help you, Startup Sanatana. Right. Okay, so anyways, let's come back. I know that's I'm not sure how this used to work in .NET, but maybe are you referring to Visual Studio? Because I know Visual Studio used to do some of those things. So I think it's all about the editor at the end of the day. So anyways, let's open the dialog quiz again. Let's come back here. Wait for the stream to come. Yeah, I think it was a Visual Studio thing. So these are the tools you could use. You could check it out on DynamoDB. Yeah. So now this was your some random value, right? And then, yeah, there we go. So it looks like this is what we needed to pass. So if we kind of get that array, the DDB array and the DDB object, and we pass it to the unmarshall method, it will help us convert it into a normal JSON, from which you can always read through, right? So earlier you need to do this, but now you could just do this, right? So that's pretty helpful. So see, this is how it looks like. Earlier this used to be this, but now it is this. So I could literally make a before and after method, but this was pretty useful. Thanks TC for pointing us towards this. uh, Good learning stuff here, and I would use this if you wanted to not spend a lot of time. Kind of, I mean, you could manually parse through this, and that's what this I think this Stack Overflow question was asking, is what is the recommended way. And I think the recommended way did help you with this. But so this is what you could do, right? I mean, but this is, yeah, I don't want to kind of write and go into their object keys and then go through all of those things and remove those objects or map it or flatten it. I didn't want to do all of those things, so just use this. That should help. Okay, so now getting back to this entire stuff is, right, we need the data. So now we were talking about getting a count of, so the very first thing to do is, let's come back to the code. We've got the random player. So what the random player is going to do for us here is, let's open up the CloudWatch log again. Let's come up here. So it's going to be either this player or that player. And then once we get that player, I think that's where we would kind of marshal that entire, let's see what happens if we kind of marshal it. Yeah, let's marshal it into, so let marshaled opponent is equal to aws.dynamodb.converter.unmarshal, and then pass opponent as the value, right? If the code looks a bit ugly, please bear with me. We will kind of clean it up as we go along. So the code cleanliness is not what I'm focusing on right now. Okay, so now that we have the marshaled opponent, we want to kind of get their the game's count. So let's see if I change this to the marshaled opponent, and we tried this out last time, but last time for some reason it was not working, and maybe this was the reason. But now what we are expecting is that we would get an array or an object which would look like this, games, and then we want a count of those things, right? That object. Does this work? I don't know. Let's figure out. Okay, so now that we've deployed this, I'm just going to come back to the skill. Let's try this again. Exit the skill and try it again. And let's just come back to the CloudWatch logs. Let's come here. It's really fun to learn about this method for sure, because I never thought, because it's just like, this is so difficult to kind of pull this off. And I mean, I could spend time learning about this, but sometimes I just want things to get done, and descriptor methods help. Anyways, did we deploy? Okay, yeah, and we tested it. 35. Okay, so now it looks like we did a small mistake. It looks like the games count is still not going to it's still not giving us games count, right? It should have at least either one of these, either games of count or games of count. Some of this should have worked. Let's, you know what, let's just do a couple of things, folks, here. So this is Marshall opponent, so let's do a Marshall opponent. Console.log Marshall opponent. And for folks who are just joining in and wondering what's happening, we are basically using a method called as marshalling that was available in DynamoDB converter, and I've just posted that in chat. And the entire idea is that it would take a DynamoDB record and convert it into a JavaScript object. So yeah, if anyone needs that while working with DynamoDB, feel free to use that link. So now we are at this. Let's just deploy this. Yeah, I agree, Gold Zulu. This is a nice function to work with, and it works both way as well. It also has a Marshall function, which kind of takes your JavaScript object and converts it into a DynamoDB set. Now this is helpful because if you remember in our code, we had this entire thing that we needed to do. We don't need to do that anymore. We could just pass it and then just run the Marshall command, and you could just do that right away, right? So you could do that. And I mean, this works perfectly fine when you're just working with just one key or two keys, but I'm pretty sure as you kind of build a more complex app, you're going to require more keys, right? So this is somehow helpful for that. Anyways, so coming back, I believe we'll just exit the skill, come back here. We're just trying and seeing how does this object look like. And you're going to see me doing that a lot because when I'm live streaming, a lot of these things just don't click in my mind. And I mean, if I'm coding, I would figure it out. But while I'm live streaming, there are just so many things to keep in mind, like my computer, where it is streaming from, and all those things. So I kind of sometimes miss even on the basics. There we go. Computer, stop. I just got so many devices and so many different fake names. So that is bound to happen. Now, so my opponent is games, but I can't see the Marshall opponent. Okay, so this is Marshall opponent, and this is how it's going to look like. And okay, so it looks like for some reason you're not getting the count. How do we get the count of? Isn't it as simple as just getting a count? Okay, so I'm pretty sure this is okay. I just open up an app. This looks like a JavaScript object, right? Find the count of arrays, objects inside objects. Object. Is that how I would do it? Not really. This doesn't look like the way to do it. How would I do it? And if anyone on the stream has an idea, feel free to. How to count? Find the count of, let's say, arrays inside object. Node.js. many objects in array, but this is an array, right? And this would, did I need to use length? Is length? Yeah, and I'm not sure why I'm using count, uh, but I really hope that's the solution. I mean, if is it me or are there dropped frames? Gold Zulu, I don't see dropped frames in there. I'm getting 60 FPS and wait a minute. Am I dropping frames here? Okay. Right. Is anyone else getting dropped frames? If yes, I'll kind of try and see if I can do something about it. Just let me know in the comments if you're getting a dropped frame, because I kind of realized I'm on the Wi-Fi network, so I might have to switch back to LAN to kind of get a better streaming network. I'll just wait for your responses, folks. Just type it out in the chat. Let me know if you're seeing dropped frames or the stream is not working proper for some reason. So now it looks like even length is not working. So I don't think it's an issue with length, right? Because we just did game count, Marshall opponent games dot length. Okay, there are dropped frames. So okay, folks. No, you know what? Just give me a second. I'll just pause the stream and switch streams, switch networks, and I'll just come back. Just give me a second. Hold on. Be right back. I'll be jumping in soon. Can you folks see me? Can you folks hear me properly? I just switched my network and I can confirm that I have pretty much good internet speed, so I don't think I have dropped frames anymore. Streamlabs doesn't show me that as well, so I think I'm good to go. Just let me know if you're able to see me properly in the chat. But yes, Gold Zulu asks, can you say what you want to do again? So here's what we are doing here, Gold Zulu. So we have a user, and this user has played a few games, right? So right now they just have one game. So in fact, let's do this thing. Let's come in here, and it is possible that this user might have had multiple games, right? So I'm just going to add one more game that they might have played, right? So this is going to be game 2, and let's say for example they played game 2 with some other player, okay? And for some reason they played these questions, okay? So this is how our JSON looks like. The user played a game. This game was called as game 1, and just sorry folks, but can you all see me? Can you all hear me? I don't see any messages, so I'm kind of a bit confused here. Just let me know if you are able to see. Yeah, cool. So here's what we are doing here, Gold Zulu. So this is my games array, games object, and I have one object called as game 1 and one called as game 2. And pretty much what method that we are working on right now and what it does right now is that it would go into where is it, right? So this is a method, and this method is called get opponent in a game. So when I pass the user's ID, it would get me a user who is not the current user, so basically their opponent, and out of their opponents what it is going to do is it's going to pick up one of their games. So for example, if this person has two games, where did it go? If this person has two games, right, it's going to pick up either one of them. So I'm trying to find, so this is games. How do I get the length of that object, right? And yeah, that's something that I'm trying to find. And this is how the JSON looks like. It says Marshall opponent game 1. So this is game 1. I kind of feel that I'm doing something wrong here. I don't think I should be doing this. So a bit confused. I want to get basically how many games this user has. So right now this user has 2 games. I'm just trying to get that property in here. How do I get that? So it looks like a.arr.length. It looks like object.keys of list. Exactly. Yeah, I think this is what we were looking for, auction box. And Golzulu, you are right. If it was an array, I could just use array.length. But if it's an object, I need to use something like this. And I don't know. I mean, it's just figuring out. Let's see. So object.keys. And you know, I kind of just realized where the dot count was coming in from. I think it was coming in from PHP. I've used PHP for way too long, and PHP has this count function. So that was what was striking my head. But yeah. Let's see if we kind of get this. If we do, cool. So we should get this value. This should be 2, right? The game count should be 2. We also tried this one, but we don't need it anymore. But anyways, let's keep it for the time being. I'm just going to delete this log stream. Just delete it. Exit. Open the dialog quiz. Come back here. There we go. That worked. Cool. Auction box. Thanks for finding that out. So this is how, and I mean, I think this object.keys things can do a lot of things. In fact, if you actually look at this, just here, you can actually use object.keys.forEach. So I guess that's if you have a JSON object within an object, that's how you would handle it. You would use object.keys.length. I've used, like I said, I've used it so many times, but when it comes to live stream or programming like this, it kind of gets sometimes difficult. Okay, so now we've got the game count. So now we know that this user has 2 games with them, right? They've already played 2 games, but with totally different pair of users, right? So what we are going to do here is we are going to say let run. Okay, I think we have this random method. So let random game is equal to mat.floor mat.random into game count, right? So And just to kind of do this, let's make this as the player count, so we are not confusing that, right? So this is the player count, so that we can get a random player. Now we are getting a random game here, right? So now that we get the random game, what we are going to do here is let opponent's game. So the opponent game is going to be the marshaled opponent of games, followed by so just a minute, let game string is equal to game plus random game dot toString. Again, I'm not sure this is going to work, but what I'm looking to do is say for example, we are kind of coming, yeah, I think I'll take this step by step. Okay, so let's take this step by step. So what's going to happen here is random game is going to return me a number from 0 to 1, and the reason is because the game count is right now, so the game count is right now 2, so it's going to return either 0 or 1 because that's what this random function does. So I'll just add a plus 1 here, so the value is, if it was 0 it would become 1, if it was 1 it would become 2, right? Because out here the way we are kind of saving things in the database, we have game 1, game 2, right? We are not starting from game 0, and that's perfectly fine. So that's that. And then what we are doing is, once we've got the game value, so maybe it's game, the thing is 2, so I kind of need to get marshaled opponent of games of game 2, right? That's what we need to do. We need to get this game 2, right? So what I'm doing here is I'm kind of making a string, game string, and I'm adding this random game, converting it into string and appending both of that. I'm not sure if this works, but yeah, let's figure out. Console.log game string plus game string, and console.log opponent game, console.log json.stringify opponent game, right? We don't need this anymore because we've just figured it out, right? So yeah, that's what we are trying to do here. And I absolutely love Wednesdays night because we can stream for some more time. So I think we will hang around for much more time today and try and figure this out. So we're just going to delete this, exit, open the dialog quiz, go inside CloudWatch, let's load it up. So there we go, that worked. Wow, I coded something and it worked in the first go. I'm happy. So this worked. So the game string became game 1, right? So the game string was game 1, right? And then when we asked for questions of game 1, it sent us the game 1 of the user. So where is the game 1, right? Is this as we decided? So yeah, 1, 3, 43, 45, 94. Are these the questions? 1, 3, 4, 3. Yeah, these are the questions, right? So now what we are going to do here is, so that sounds interesting. So what we are going to do now here is, let me just take this out. let's remove all these JSON conditions. We don't need this anymore. Let's remove the console logs. And I kind of have a better way to handle this. I have my own console function, which, depending on whether it's production or development, makes sure that the consoles are being written or not. So I could always toggle that. But yeah, I don't need to do that really. But let's go anyways with that. Okay, so now what we are going to do is let final data is equal to opponent details is going to come in from opponent. In fact, this is going to be opponent dot yeah, we don't have anything about the user name as of right now, but let's work with opponent ID for the time being, right? So opponent ID is what we are going to work with, and then game is going to be opponent game, right? So this is our final data. Okay, and then do we put in a resolve here? Yeah, we put in a resolve here. So because this is a promise, we are going to resolve this and we are going to say final data. Okay, so now what happens here is, let's actually console this. I've got too many consoles in here, final data, but let's play around. And then what's going to happen is we are going to get that response. Is it opponent game or opponent dot game? It is opponent game here, oxygen box. So this is the variable here, opponent game. And what we are doing here is we are getting all of that value here, saving it to opponent game, and then finally creating a JSON data and clearing it out and then resolving it, right? So now we come to index.js. Now we say console.log data, okay, and then here we say console.log final data. So now so this is how it's going to happen. The user is going to say open the skill, it's going to find an opponent for them, and then once it finds an opponent, it's going to save that to the session attribute so that we can just loop through that. As usual, if you think you missed some of those things, we can always go back to our YouTube channel, watch those videos step by step, and you will learn some of these things. Right, I think we are almost at that point. Let's deploy this. Okay, it looks like it's deployed. And then what we are going to do here is come back to this and delete this. Yeah, I know, I'm not sure if this is irritating to you folks, but I do that. I kind of like to see my CloudWatch logs. I'm not going to say it's an OCD, but I like to see my CloudWatch logs clear all the time. I don't know why, not for the production skills, but when I'm developing, I kind of just like to have it clear. So I kind of obsessively go back and delete all of them. Maybe I should just write a JavaScript plugin for this that does that. Anyways, coming back here, let's see how that log turned out to be. Okay, so this is after the response. So this is the final data. The final data looks like this. Opponent S random value, okay, and we've got the questions. Which is perfectly fine. We've got the player. This is after the, did we work with that? Yeah, so there we go. That is how we would get this, right? So Whew, let's take a break right now to unpack what we have done so far, because that was like a huge module. I think we've been doing for the past two episodes. We've been just spending time on that. So let's just quickly understand what we are doing here, right? All we are doing here is we're calling this function called as get opponent and game, and whoever is the current user, we are passing their user ID to this function. Now what this function does is it goes to database.js, and then here we've just said that, hey, here's a filter expression where ID is not equal to the ID that we have given. So we've given an ID, we want all the records except this user's record. We've gotten that, and then we kind of run that scan function, and then we get the data back. And now when we were getting this data back, once we get the data back, this is how the data is going to look like. Is going to basically return everything in this table except for that one user. And right now this is the first user. That's what we are talking about. It's going to return all the other users except this user, because that's the query that we have run. And then once we do that, what we did was we picked a random player out of it. So out of those two players, maybe there might be 100 players, right? So out of those 100 players, we need to find one player that this person is going to be matched randomly to, right? So that is something that we did. We found a random player, and now this random player, they might have played 10 different games with someone else, right? So what we are trying to do is then pick a random game for them as well, which is what we did here. And then we just got all of that together here and sent it back to the user, right? Sent it back to the method by resolving it. And then once we finally resolved it, we caught it here, and we are working with this. Okay, now let's get back to our skill. We've had an error on the skill for quite a while now, so let's open the skill, and I'm just for the time being going to comment out this method to show people who are just joining the stream about how this experience was working initially, right? So the way this experience used to work before is okay. So let's come back here. Let's see how this experience works now. So open the dialog quiz, right? So it would say welcome back user, right? And then I think we did not write that part of that skill. We have not yet done that. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say let's delete this user. Okay, I'm just going to delete this user so that we can see it from how it's going to work for a new user. Let's try that out. So exit the game, open the dialog quiz. So not sure if you can hear this. Let me unmute the site.
In this game, I will play an audio clip of a dialogue from a movie.
Yeah, so
and you have to guess the actor and the movie.
So that's what this game does. It will play an audio clip of a dialogue from a movie, and you have to guess the actor and the movie. Okay. Now it would say Marlon Brando from Godfather. So once I did Marlon Brando from Godfather, what it would do is it would say, okay, yeah, it said, okay, why did it give the wrong answer? I'm not sure, but we'll figure that out pretty soon, right? So what it is going to do then is it's going to say, I found someone to play with you. So the first step was like a training step, right? It was just teaching the user, this is how you play the game. It would say that I will play an audio clip of Marlon Brando from Godfather, give me the right answer. And then the user has to say Marlon Brando from Godfather, and then it would say, hey, you got the answer correct. And I'm not sure why we got that wrong. but we had basically, I think there was something wrong here. Maybe I just needed to change the values here, but we'll get to that. But what it used to do is it would say that, hey, this is a first time user and they are just testing out the skill, and they did say Marlon Brando and Godfather, so it would say something like, hey, you learned how to play this game, let me find a player for you. And then they would go and find a player for that user, right? So, and this is how they would do that. It would say something like, found player. It would say, I found someone to play with you, the player is, right? So at this point, so this is where what's going to happen is, um, we need to kind of call that method. So remember this method that we just wrote about some time back. This one should not be in the launch request handler, but it should be in here, because this is where we are kind of fetching the opponent. Now this is something that we know we will keep calling every now and then. So what I'll do is I'll kind of create a fetch opponent method. I had a fetch opponent method. I'm just going to put that code in here, right? This is how it's supposed to look like, right? And crazy bone. So the first question, 99% of people would know. So the problem, that's not the problem. The problem is that there would still be people who would not know Marlon Brando from Godfather, right? And it's properly fine. I'm kind of using that first question as a way to teach them, and I'm actually telling them the answer as well, right? If you look at this, I'm telling them that to get started, I'm going to teach you how to do that. So I'm kind of like trying to teach the user that, hey, this is how you play the game, so that they learn how to play the game and their first experience in the game is good, right? That's what I want them to have, right? Like, I want them to feel that, hey, if I can get the first answer correct, I'm going to work with this skill more, I'm going to play this skill more, right? And oftentimes what happens is I kind of try and play this with some other skills. I play this on some skills. um, it asks me a question and I don't know the answer. I give an answer, it's wrong, but I don't get to know what the right answer was. And just getting a wrong answer is going to give me like a negative emotion, because hey, I just didn't do good at that, right? So I'll just say stop it, right? So there is a chance of the user doing that. So I kind of want that first winning moment as soon as possible, and then kind of taking it from there, right? So that's what we are looking to achieve with this entire thing. Now we have this method called as fetch opponent. So what we are going to do is, now let's come back here, and here fetch opponent user ID, right? And let me just get this user ID from here. Fetch opponent user ID, and let opponent is equal to fetch opponent user ID, right? And then what I need to do here is speak output plus equal to, and I'm kind of appending to this I kind of want to do something like this, right? So opponent of opponent, let's look at this JSON object here that we just got back. So opponent of opponent, and I think we just kind of missed this one here. Kind of, let's just go back and see if we can unmarshall that as well. Let's basically unmarshall that as well. Let's just copy that, and this one, right? Okay, now are we missing something here? Nope, doesn't look like we are missing something here. Yeah, let's come here, out, console.log opponent. Okay, way too many console.logs. But I think that's fine. Just get to learn something new, and this is how I actually code. So let me just go back and delete this user because we don't need this user. We need to have the first experience again and again. Just still stuck at that point. At some point we are kind of going to clean this up, and it's going to be very excruciating, folks. Let me tell you, this project is not going to be something that's going to end up pretty soon. So I kind of want to kind of switch it up with a couple of other projects as well. But yeah, let's try this. Did it get deployed? Yes, it did. So it comes in here. I'm going to say Marlon Brando from Godfather. And you can't hear Alexa saying any of this because I've just muted her for the time being. Alright, perfect. So we got an error. Let's see what the error is. It's perfectly fine. So now it looks like cannot convert undefined or null to object on database.js, line number 35. It looks like this. Okay. What did we do wrong here? Oh, you know what? Yeah. That was... So we changed this, and now all of a sudden that is... It's actually for the time being. I'm just going to put it in here as this. Let's see if this works. But we are getting an error on unmarshalled, the unmarshalled JSON. So we're just not going to kind of get stuck to that for the time being. I'm just moving forward, but I'm just going to add a to-do here which says find a better way to send this data back, right? And that means cleaning up this code and all of this stuff. We will do that at a later point. I want to get to a functional endpoint at this point, which is getting the user's data back, right? So let's just deploy this. We've deployed it. Let's exit the skill, open the dialog. Is there we go. You need to delete the user. Let's go back, delete the user. If I could write a script to do this, but let's try this again. I'm going to say open the dialog quiz. Right, it's going to speak for the time being. Marlon Brando from Godfather. Kind of feel the issue is happening because I kind of the wrong answer issue is happening because yeah, I kind of did not do a string check there. But anyways, let's come back here and let's look at the logs and let's see how this looks like. So this is our final data. Is this our final data? Where's the final data function? Okay, console.log here. Okay, it looks like we are looking at the wrong event. Are we looking at the right event? Looks like that. Okay, it looks like, yeah, the here is part. Okay, yeah, I think we are good to go on this one. So now, oh yeah, I think the final data is coming in from here. So the final data method is coming from here and it is perfectly fine. So what we are going to do here is we are going to say speak output, and let's do an async. This is an async method, right? So let's just do an async method here. Async method, do an await here because we don't want to move before that comes through. So we are going to say opponent of opponent is going to send us the opponent name, but this would be typically name. I will change it to name, but we are going to say some random value. Okay, this is where we are going to just cut some corners here, and let's see if that does work for us. Let's just wait for that to get deployed. It's deployed now. Let's come back here. Let's exit. Come back. Delete the user. Actions. Delete. Delete. Open the dialog quiz. Okay. Marlon Brando from Godfather. Wow. That's really weird. Okay, so it looks like, yeah. When you get an error which says, I'm sorry, I had trouble doing what you asked, it looks like the code is undefined here. So what gives? Did I have to do opponent dot opponent? Is that how you get it? That makes no sense. But if it is, I mean, and don't worry about the, don't get confused about the kind of key structure we are giving. Right now I've just called it opponent and passed the opponent ID, but we will change this to something else at this point, right? We are just testing out something here. But then don't get confused on that. It's just, we're just trying out how to work around with this. Delete actions, delete it, delete it. Let's try this out. Exit. Open the dialog quiz. Marlon Brando from Godfather. Okay. Wow. Okay, I kind of feel that I'm doing something wrong here. But what am I doing wrong here? Should opponent dot opponent work? But wait a minute. What's also happening is even opponent is undefined. And I really wonder why. Oh, you know why, folks? I figured that out. Okay. Out here, I'm just doing console.log of data. I'm not returning this data, right? I need to return this data, of course. And that should solve this issue. I'm not returning this data. Which brings me to another interesting point. Gold Zulu mentioned to ask me if I could move my stream a little bit so that it doesn't clash with Jeff's stream. And I know I share a lot of common followers with Jeff, But I would like to know, what time would you prefer this stream on? Now, usually I stream from 9 to 11 p.m. IST. I try to do that, but one of the problems some days is that it's uh it's 9 to 11 p.m. right now. It's 10:30 p.m. IST Gold Zulu. Um, but one of the problems that I've kind of faced is sometimes by 9 o'clock I'm pretty worn out, and I'm not really on the top of my mind to code. And like you can see, I just do some of these small mistakes, right? So what time does uh, it work for you folks? I mean, anytime is fine. I can try this experiment. We can try this a couple of times. I'm an early riser, so I can always try going back to that schedule, waking up a bit early. I've done that for a while, so also okay doing that. But in your time zone, if you can respond in the chat comments in your time zone, what is it the time that works most for? Uh, Most of the times, and it's not like you have to always catch up, right? It's always good to have people on the chat community just chatting together and having this uh, discussion. That is perfectly fine. Gold Zulu says earlier is fine. How early, Gold Zulu? Do you like have a time frame, like maybe say 6 to 7 p.m. BST or 6 to 8 p.m. BST? Uh, yeah, if you can just give me a time range. I'm just trying to look for this core community that we have built who keep coming back to my stream again and again. I just want to know what is your preferred time, so maybe we can work out something for that time. Yes, we missed the return statement there, and that's what caused us all this headache. But let's try this out. Let's exit this skill. Now it's 5:53 BM BST. Okay, we need to just delete this actions, delete. um, let's try this again. Delete log streams, exit. Okay, open the dialog quiz. Marlon Brando from Godfather. Right, so it's going to say Marlon Brando from Godfather. So it says, sorry, I had trouble doing what you asked. Please try again. So what are we doing wrong here? It looks like we are still undefined. Okay, so it looks like maybe yeah, no need to drastic change. This time is good for me, but I'm flexible, says Oxygen Box. It's almost noon here, but you should do what works best for you. Yeah, I mean, of course, while I would love to do this all the time, I kind of need to kind of figure out the best possible time for me to stream. It's just that some days, and I just want to experiment with it for some time. Let's see. Maybe we will, or maybe we won't. But yeah. Now we just said return data, and then we actually have, right, and this is undefined. That's weird because yeah, the only yeah, that's the only problem, Gold Zulu. I'll be super sleepy, and 9:30 just gets too late for me. But yeah, maybe I could also try doing alternate days when Jeff is not streaming, and do it a bit early maybe. That's one way to do it. Maybe do it on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. But yeah, let's figure that out, folks. But I think right now on top of my mind is this question: is why am I not getting this? Okay, so this is fetch opponent. You know what? I kind of have a feeling that maybe I should just put a, and return just doesn't return the data in an async function. Let's see if that's correct. Return from an async function. So yes, auction box user ID is a valid function, valid value. It's working perfectly fine, and we are getting all of these things. So if you look at this console.log final data, we are actually getting this final data, right? Look at this. We get the final data. This is the final data. So the API call is successful. Now the problem is, from this function going back to this function is where the issue is happening. And I believe if I've kind of done an await function, that's where I think how to return values from async function. I kind of have a feeling that we need to put a we need to put a promise. Okay, so yep, that looks like that. Let's try that. Okay, so what we are going to do here is, let's go to fetch opponent, and in fetch opponent what we are going to do here is return new promise, right? And I don't think we'll need a wait here, and we can just resolve this data here, right? We can just resolve this data here, and that's right. Gold Zulu, Jeff usually streams for 2 hours, so that's usually 7:30 to 9:30 IST. Stay hydrated, folks. I'd like to hear from some of the Indian folks joining in from the stream. What's a good time for you? I know for auction box and gold Zulu it works like this. Let's figure that out. So now resolve data, and then what's going to happen here is kind of return this value here and get this value here. Let's see if that works. I kind of have a feeling that I'm going to learn a lot about promises as we do this coding online. And you know, the toughest part about this is that I do all of these things on the stream, and yet I forget. I can't keep all of these things in my head. I always have to come back to browsing Stack Overflow. So if I were to kind of like quantify my job or explain my job, it's spending half of the time in Stack Overflow just figuring out how JSON object in JavaScript works. I'm not kidding, folks. I'm serious. Actions, delete this, come back, exit this, open the dialog quiz. I'm going to say Marlon Brando from Godfather. Okay, anyways, let's move on. Let's start the game. And once we start the game, what's going to happen here is, just give me a minute, folks. What's going to happen here is we're still getting an undefined. Just give me a second, folks. Okay, so I'm back, folks. So now I think we got the value. Wait, didn't we just see an undefined here sometime back? Or was I dreaming? Yeah, I think we've solved that. I think so. Here it says opponent dot opponent. Yeah. And what was the response? Hey, yes, so that works, right? So it says, hey, I found someone to play with you. The player is some random player value. Now I know this is coming in from database.js, right? And where are we, right? So out here, what I did was I just passed the opponent ID, but at some point, I'm going to capture their names as well, and I'm kind of going to have a name as well. So remember what I spoke about from the starting itself is that um, this skill is not going to work great if the first few users come into the skill and they find no players to compete against, right? So I kind of need to have these players. I kind of need to put in some bots by default so that the user has a great experience, right? So what I'm going to do here is let's just come here, edit this item, text, add a string by the name of, and the name I'm going to add Karthik. Okay, save that. I can't save this, right? So this is name. Let's do that for this user as well. Access time, name. Let's put in oxygen box name, right? I hope that's okay. Oxygen box, just putting in your name. I'm not putting in Michael, but rather oxygen box. Let me know if you would want to change that. But yes, we have oxygen box in this game as well, right? And then what I'll do here is go back to the code. Let's do one thing, right? So keep it as opponent ID, right? So that we know which ID we are playing with. Name, and this is going to be opponent dot name, right? And then when we come back here, what we are going to do is I'm going to say, hey, you are paired against opponent dot name. Okay, and then what we are going to do is just test that out. Let's see if that works. I think this should work. We didn't do much changes here. We just added new names columns, right? So I think that's perfectly fine. This should just work fine. Let's delete this user. Okay, and you'll see, folks, that right now it's very unstructured. So as we go ahead, this is going to get more clearer. But yes, wow, we've come a long way since we started this a couple of weeks back. Let's try this out one more time. Open the dialog quiz, and we need to figure out why Marlon Brando from Godfather is not working. In fact, let me just copy that and add this to the to-do list. So this is something we'll figure out the next time. Here's the logic that we written out. Figure out why Marlon Brando from Godfather is not working. Maybe I'll have to give the debugger a code that it can't refuse. going to say Marlon Brando from Godfather, right? So, oh, you know what? Um, Auction box. No, it's not looking for the Godfather, but I was kind of putting the answer right here. Give me before the audio was being played, and that's why I think there was an issue. But there we go. It says I found someone to play with you. The player is Karthik, right? So uh, yeah, we've come a long way now. We've kind of found an opponent for our user, for our current user, and we are matching them out, and we are getting their name, calling out their name, and speaking it out, right? So that way, we've done a lot of work so far. Let's quickly revise what we are looking to build. Um, we are building an experience where the user says, open the dialog quiz. It will teach them how to play it by the Marlon Brando clip. And then it will say, I found someone from Seattle to compete with you. Here's your first audio clip. So we've come till this point so far, right? And we are still working on the happy part. So this is going to be a long drawn skill, folks. This is not something that we are going to like wrap up in the next couple of days or in the next couple of streams. This is going to possibly go into like uh, maybe I expect 3 or 4 more weeks of this. Maybe in the middle, every now and then, we'll figure out jumping into some different things for streaming. As usual, if you think there are things that I should try out or that you want to learn on the stream, we can do that together as well. So, always open to suggestions. Just let me know what you want to learn. Now, this, like I mentioned, this is something that we have reached. Now, what we need to do now is remember this database.js also had a final data, had a key called as game, and this game looks like this, right? It looks like this. So this is, let's just copy this. Let's see how this looks like, right? So this is an array, and let me explain this array to you folks, okay? What I'm doing in this array is and this is something that we had talked about before. So I'm telling that when this user, when Karthik was playing this game, for the first question, they scored 5 points. For the third question, they scored 10 points. For the 43, 10 coins, 45, 5 points, and for 94, they got 10 points, right? Now what's going to happen is I'm going to create an array, and let's see if we kind of have that array somewhere. Of questions. I don't think we have that yet, but yes, this is how it's going to look like, right? So I'm going to have an array of questions which is going to be like 1 to 200, 1 to 300 or something like that, right? That's how it's going to look like. And what we are going to do there is, where did that go, right? So so once we get these numbers for this user, for one user, I'm going to save this to the user, to the session attributes. So we will save this to the session attributes, save the questions and opponent scores to the session attributes. And once we do that, what we are going to do is we are going to ask the question. We are going to play the audio clip, and basically this number 1 is going to get us this first question, right? This number 3 is going to get us the third question. This number 43 is going to get us the 43rd question, right? So at this point I have not populated this file, so it's looking very empty. But I will keep doing that. I will kind of have say maybe 5-10 files for testing, and then what I'm going to do here is these are the questions that will be asked to the user, right? So now this user is going to get the same question based on whatever was asked to the previous player or to their opponent, right? And now when they answer it, I'm going to check, hey, how much did the opponent score in this? So if the opponent scored 5 and the current user scored 10, we are going to say that, hey, you know what, you scored 10 points, that person scored 5 points, you are leading, and kind of add to that entire mechanism. I know this might sound a bit confusing, but once we kind of, I think now we are getting into the core gameplay. We've kind of sorted out how to get this working. So we kind of got to that point where the core libraries are made. We are just now doing a lot of core gameplay action here. And we will be testing it out, so you will get an idea of how the skill is going to evolve from now on. But yes, we've reached this point, and that's a pretty good milestone. um, I think it's time for today to wrap up. If you maybe by the time quarantine ends, is what Oxygen Box says, the skill will be ready. I'm not sure when the quarantine is going to end, and I'm not sure if I want to keep working on the same thing by then. I want to work on this. When I took this up, I thought this would be something I could easily dust off, but I underestimated my efforts. Uh, and given the fact that I work on this only on this stream, I don't work on it outside of this stream, we are taking a bit of time, but I think that's fine. We are learning something as we go ahead. So that way it's perfectly fine. But like I said, really, really glad to be doing these streams. It's fun. I'm learning a lot of stuff, and I hope you are learning as well. Um, Feel free to ask any questions on the chat. I always like to answer these questions or figure out those questions on our own. But glad you could join us, folks, and thanks for joining as usual. I think it's time for me to sign off. If there are no questions, I'll wrap up for today. Thanks everyone for joining in. Crazy Bone, Gold Zulu, Oxygen Box, Startup Sanatana, Dipanshu, Rajat, everyone. Harsh joined in as well. Thanks for joining. It was a fun session as usual. Stay safe, stay healthy. Until next time, bye bye. Good night.